Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Quick Question Podcast. My name is Gabe Ryan, alongside my co-host today, Mr. Michael Daley. How are you doing?
Hello.
All right. We are back for episode 15 of the Quick Question Podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. Hope you've had a great holiday season so far. Christmas was just a couple days ago. Hope you're spending some time with your family and loved ones. We have a decently loaded show. As the world kind of slows down for the holidays, sports feels like it's just as busy as ever.
It's ramping up, baby.
It's ramping up, and it's an exciting time. College football playoff bowl games are next weekend, New Year's weekend. NFL's coming down to the wire. We've got some pivotal games coming up in the next couple weeks. Teams are falling off. Some teams are making runs. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then college basketball is just getting good because it's conference season.
Conference play. Yep.
Conference play. Some big-time schools, big-time names playing really well. And also, MLB free agency is still lingering. And we've got one shortstop who's still not signed a deal yet, and we'll talk to you about that a little bit. So, Michael, where do you want to start?
Oh, let's do a little NFL recap.
Okay.
I see you got your Bengals jersey on.
I do.
You know, Merry Christmas. And...
Yeah. I got a orange Joe Burrow jersey for Christmas. Very excited.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah, whoever that gift giver was, you got to get them good next Christmas.
Oh, for sure. This is my first jersey I think I've had since I was like 7. At least Bengals jersey. So it's
exciting. The time, man.
Yeah,
They're getting hot.
I know.
They're getting hot. It was ugly, but you guys got it done.
Yeah. Bengals defeated the Patriots 22-18 in Foxborough. They were up 22-0 at halftime, and then I don't really know how to explain the second half. The Patriots were the beneficiaries of some bad luck from the Bengals. We had an interception that was taken back for a touchdown. Kind of a desperation throw from Burrow. He's thrown to a spot, nobody was there. And then Marcus Jones ran it back 60 yards. And then Mac Jones actually moved the ball a little bit downfield, scored a touchdown. It was legit. Like, everything was perfect. And then the next possession, he just threw up an absolute prayer into triple coverage, and it bounced off the hands and the helmet of one of their receivers. And then it was a gift. Magic. Exactly.
Little Christmas present for him.
Present for him. So when that happened, I was like, oh no, here we go. Burrow made some throws down the stretch, turned the ball over again because Jamar Chase fumbled. And when everything was going wrong, defense stepped up. DJ Reader had one of their running backs locked up. Von Bell came and punched the ball out. Bengals recovered the fumble, and that was the game.
Like the 5-yard line, yeah.
Thank God. But the Bengals escaped. They're 11-4, 7 in a row. They still have a chance to get the number 1 seed in the AFC if they can win out, and if the Chiefs lose. That's pretty much the biggest thing. The Chiefs and the Bills both win, so they're both 12-3 going into Week 17. The Buffalo Bills and the Bengals are matching up on Monday Night Football, Week 17, which is a huge game for the AFC, especially with the top few seeds, how those are going to shake out. But pretty much, as far as the AFC goes, the teams that have been playing well have gotten it done. The Jaguars took care of business on Thursday Night Football against the Jets. Who would have thought? The Jacksonville Jaguars are Trevor Lawrence, Aaron's boy.
That's right.
The Jacksonville Jaguars could be one of the only teams that have had the number 1 pick in the draft and made the playoffs the same year. Like, that's insane. An insane turnaround. And the New York Jets started off the season really hot. They've had some quarterback troubles. Zach Wilson hasn't been great. And then Mike White comes in, balls out for a few games, gets injured. Zach Wilson is being a prima donna, can't figure things out. So the Jets, you feel bad for them. They do have a really strong defense, really good talent. But the Jaguars, the way they're playing, they beat the Cowboys. They beat the Jets. They have some other really big wins. They're playing with some good teams. Doug Peterson's been there, done that.
Oh yeah, they'll be playing a home playoff game. They'll win that division. They're way higher than Tennessee right now. Tennessee won over Ryan Tannehill the rest of the year. That'll be their division. They'll be hosting the team. Probably the Ravens or Bengals, depending on who wins that Week 18 matchup.
I mean, the Ravens, even being as wounded as they are, not having Lamar Jackson, they're still winning games. Their only bad loss the past couple weeks was the Browns. They lost 13-3 in Cleveland, which opened the door for the Bengals to take the lead in that division. But the Ravens still hanging around. They're still a problem. If the Bengals lose next week against the Bills, Week 18 matchup, everything is on the line for the division, which if you like drama and if you're an NFL script writer, this is kind of what you're going for. But the AFC North is still in limbo. The Chiefs have taken the West. The Bills have taken the East. And then, like you mentioned, the AFC South, Jaguars have a chance to come in and clinch. And as far as the NFC goes, the Philadelphia Eagles are still 13-2.
But
Cowboys huge win.
Oh yeah, I was super impressed with what the Cowboys did. I know, you can make the case it's against their backup quarterback, but you still hang up 40 points on that number one, number two defense, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, for sure.
It was an impressive performance out of Prescott. But I think if Hurts isn't available for these next couple games, Philly could be in trouble. And you can lose a lot of momentum going into the playoffs. And what it looks like right now, it looks like it's going to be Gardner Minshew for at least this weekend. And then you got New York the next weekend. And New Orleans and New York are two teams that are still playing for something. Those are two teams that are still, they're in must-win games in those games.
For sure.
So there's a chance that the Eagles could be battling for their, one-seed lives. And there's a big difference between getting a bye versus not getting a bye, or potentially even, losing the division and having to go to a 4-seed, which would be the winner of the NFC South. So
yeah, and I think the Cowboys exposed something with the Eagles. Their secondary has played really well all season, but the last couple games haven't played as strong, and the Cowboys exposed that. They put up a ton of points against them. CeeDee Lamb was a problem. All their wide receivers were problems. I watched the last few minutes of the game, and some of those throws that Dak made were very nice. I know.
The 3rd and 30?
Yeah. That throw was ridiculous.
I don't think I've seen that out of him. And this is his 7th year now in the league. I don't think I've seen that out of him.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it's just the same exact thing as every year, where we get excited for the playoffs and get bounced immediately. But it feels different. I want to say it feels different.
And then
it might not be. It might not be in the slightest.
If you're
but it feels.
I was gonna say, if you're an Eagles fan, there's definitely no reason to panic. You still have a heck of a football team. Your offense is really fun to watch. Even if Gardner Minshew's in there, he still put up 35 points against a very good Dallas Cowboys team. You have weapons: A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. You can run the ball a little bit, stretch the offense out, but they have a very good team. I don't think the concern level is too high right now, but if they string a couple weeks together, momentum's a huge thing in the NFL, especially with their emotional leader, Jalen Hurts, out. That's a big difference. And you have a good leader when you can kind of command both sides of the ball from a leadership perspective. And then moving down the NFC South is just a dumpster fire.
Terrible.
The Buccaneers got a must needed win against the Arizona Cardinals.
But Carolina's won 4 of their last 6 since they fired their coach. How?
I don't know.
Watching those games.
I don't know.
I'm not tuning in to watch Sam Darnold play, right? But I might have to now. If they won 4 of their last 6, and they're playing Tampa this week, they control their destiny to make the playoffs. I mean, that's been one of the craziest turnarounds. I mean, firing coach mid-season, and we'll get to the other firing that just happened, but.
And if Tampa wins this weekend, they clinch, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So, Tampa Tom, see if he has one more miracle. And
they don't look good until there's 5 minutes left in the game.
That's fair, but that's in a lot of ways that's the way Tom Brady plays. At least
that's right.
In this advanced stage of life he's in.
And I saw on ESPN saying in the NFC, I saw on ESPN that the Vikings broke the record for the most one-score wins in a season in NFL history. I don't know how that team does it every week. They can't beat a team by more than 7 points.
No. But
in every single close game, they dominate. 2 minutes left in the game, no one stops them.
Which if you're a Vikings fan, if you're just a rational football fan, you want them to win by more than one score. But if they can prove that they can win those close games in the playoffs, it really doesn't matter what the score is as long as you win.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to do that. Now, they can't get themselves down in a 33-0 hole and then
Yep.
find a way to come back.
They
But
won't be doing that in the playoffs.
no, for sure. But if you can win close games, that's huge. And a Bengals team, even last year or 2 years ago, I don't think they win that game in Foxborough. Like, all the momentum's going against them. They have to make a play to win, and they do make a play to win. That's what good teams do.
That's right.
And same thing with the Cowboys. They get it done on Sunday Night Football against or was it Sunday? No, Saturday. It was Saturday.
America's Game of the Week. It was
Okay.
America's Game of the Week.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was on
So
it was on Fox. It wasn't even on NBC.
national television. That
Yeah.
is national television.
Anyways,
Mhm.
that's huge for the Cowboys
Yeah.
for momentum going forward.
Mhm.
Other NFC teams, we alluded to the Vikings. They clinched the North already. Not a very strong division.
And well, Green Bay gets so lucky. This Tua being concussed for the
Yeah.
second half, giving the ball away 3 times.
Tua did
That
not
was-
look good.
No, whether or not he was affected by the concussion, we'll see.
We'll
Because
see.
they've entered protocol. I don't think he'll play again this year. I don't think he should play again this year.
Mhm.
But Dolphins have now lost 4 straight, fallen off a cliff. It sucks to see. I think that offense would be fun to watch in the playoffs, but no Tyreek and Waddle, it looks like as of right now. But maybe they can turn it around in the last 2 weeks.
Yep. And then the Lions, I think their playoff hopes might be done, or at least very slim. Very slim. They were playing just as good as any team in the NFL, and they lose pretty convincingly to the Carolina Panthers. It was on the road. It's a tough game. Panthers have been playing well the last few weeks, but if you're a Lions fan, prayers out to Shafty. He's somewhere on a boat in the middle of the ocean. But I
think he's enjoyed it. He's enjoyed his
Oh,
Christmas break.
he told me the other day he won $250 on blackjack. So
I heard that
I
too.
think he's
I heard
doing
that
okay.
too,
I
right?
think he's doing okay.
He took it and ran. But yeah, I mean, Detroit's got Chicago, and then it's really going to come down to as long as Washington loses one, it's going to come down to Detroit versus Green Bay in the last game, probably, unless Green Bay loses to Minnesota. So that'll be a fun game. Like you said, the script writers, there's a lot of games that are going to come down to Bengals, Ravens, Jaguars, Titans, Lions, Packers.
Yeah.
It should be a fun, exciting end of the season. But for one team that will not be excited end of the season will be the Broncos.
Oh.
It has been a rough day. Christmas national television, was it 51-14?
51-14. I think Russell Wilson threw 3 interceptions on his first 4 throwing attempts or something ridiculous. Let's just say it was a whole thing of salt in the wound for the Broncos. Haven't played well.
They did what they had to do. They let Hackett go after that game. That had to be done because you invested so many picks and salary cap into your quarterback who has underperformed this season. You have to ride with it.
Yeah.
And
then
Broncos country, let's ride. We're riding with Russ. You have to do it for 4 more years.
Yeah.
You got to see it out, and you got to do whatever you can to put the best pieces around it.
Which I agree with that. Russell Wilson has played terrible all year. I know he's had some injuries, some nagging things. He had the shoulder thing, the hamstring. He had a concussion a couple games ago. But still, a 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback. You've won a Super Bowl. You're supposed to be in the prime of your life. You're in a system where you can do whatever you want. You don't have to play to the system like you did in Seattle. I think everything made so much sense on the outside. Like, oh, this is going to be a home run. He's going to do well. He's playing in Denver. The air's thinner. He can chuck that ball so far. But whatever's happened, it just hasn't fizzled out. I know there's been a lot of tension between Hackett and Wilson. They have not been on the same page. I don't think Russell respects Hackett, and I think Hackett's just pissed off at Russell the entire time. And I think that bleeds over. If you have your 2 biggest leaders, at least from a position standpoint, in your system, going at it and not respecting each other, not doing the little things, You could go down the line.
It's never going to work.
It's never going to work.
Seeing the same thing. You're seeing the same thing in Arizona. I know Kyler's hurt now, but
Yeah.
that coach and quarterback don't respect each other.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised to see that coach go, Kingsbury.
Yeah,
and just a little, homage to J.J. Watt retiring.
Oh.
That came out this morning. Yeah, it's my Wisconsin boy. Surefire first ballot Hall of Famer.
I saw that too. That's insane that he's not going to be a football player anymore after this season. It just doesn't feel right. Now, the last couple of years since he's been in Arizona, he's at a later stage in his career. It hasn't been like, oh, J.J. Watt all the time. But still, at least for our generation, that's one of the best players we will ever see.
Absolutely.
As Rich Eisen said on Twitter, see you in Canton, J.J. Watt. But getting back to the Broncos for a second, even in that abysmal dumpster fire of a loss against the Los Angeles Rams, who are worst in the NFL in pretty much every offensive category, he put up 51 points. Even though defense made plays, good field position, all that stuff. Broncos, miscues, personal fouls, teammates fighting on the sidelines. After the game, one of their players punched one of the Rams offensive linemen for his second personal foul. Just a handshake line, just decks him. Like, who's punching a helmet? Who's punching a helmet?
This season can't end any sooner for Broncos fans.
Oh, no.
I mean, that was the most embarrassing. I mean, they put on national television so many times, too. So it was so highlighted.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
How terrible this was. It wasn't like you could stick this away in a noon window somewhere and we don't really know what's going on. This was on many occasions front and center. This offense could not score. And, the strength of the team was supposed to be the defense. The strength of the team was supposed to be we're allowing 18 points a game going into this Rams game where we're playing Baker Mayfield and, the backups of the Rams, right? Feeling Super Bowl hangover. You get 50 burger hung up on you. I mean, that's inexcusable. That franchise in turmoil. I hope they can, turn around this offseason. I'm rooting for Russ, but
I saw. I was reading an article in The Athletic. They were talking about Hackett's departure and everything, and they were like, "Where's Peyton Manning? Is he going to come into the picture? Because he makes his football decisions on a year-to-year basis. Does he come in, swoop in either as the general manager, maybe the coach? I mean." Talk about a heck of a piece to add to your organization. I think that's a huge move for the Broncos. He's expressed interest in doing that. He's friends with the new owner, George Penner. He is quoted as saying that Denver is his destination city. That's where he wants to be. He loves the organization, and since he left, since they won the Super Bowl in 2015, they've been terrible. 6 losing seasons. I don't know. Maybe that's one of the off-season moves of, like, one of the biggest off-season moves. Yeah. And even going outside of the Broncos, the AFC West was supposed to be the toughest division in football. The Raiders sucked. The Broncos sucked. The Chiefs were good. Everyone thought they'd be good. And then the Chargers just clinched the playoffs with their win against the Colts last night. But it wasn't this absolute juggernaut of a division like it was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be all 4 teams have winning records or getting.
Everybody's going to be in the playoffs, and
that's right.
Everybody else is going to have to win their division.
And who would have thought it's going to be the NFC East that pulls that off? It's going to be the NFC East.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Who would have thought the Giants have a better record than the Broncos and the Raiders? Nobody. Nobody.
Nobody. I don't believe anyone will think that.
Well, is there anything else you want to add with NFL or
Nah.
move on?
Move on.
All right. So the next topic we're going to talk about. If any of you have been following MLB free agency at all, some monster contracts so far in free agency, almost amassing collectively around $2 billion worth of contract money, which is insane. And the shortstop market has been at the forefront of this offseason. Trey Turner goes to the Philadelphia Phillies for 11 years, $300 million. Xander Bogaerts goes to the San Diego Padres, 11 years, $280. And then most recently, Dansby Swanson signs with the Cubs for 7 years, $177. That's a huge pickup for the Cubs, in my opinion. one of the best shortstops I've seen play, very consistent day in, day out. Um, but the elephant in the room is Mr. Carlos Correa, former Houston Astro World Series winner, played last year with the Twins. He signed a 3-year deal with the Twins going into last season with an opt out after the first year. Correa elects to opt out, and he goes and signs a mega deal, or was supposedly going to sign a mega deal with the San Francisco Giants for 13 years, $350 million at the shortstop position. And
then it was the day of the presser, right?
it was the
They
day
had like the press release ready.
it was the day before, so they scheduled the physical the day before and then spend the night, press conference the next day. I think it was December 19th they took Correa's physical evaluation, which, have you ever heard of the Barstool Sports podcast Starting Nine?
Mm-hmm.
So Jake Arrieta, one of the pitchers for the Cubs, he's co-host, and he was explaining the whole physical process for these Major League Baseball players. So essentially, it's a 6 to 7 hour process. You go in with a team doctor, and they test you for literally everything. Blood work, you're doing MRIs, you're sitting in the MRI tube, I think an hour and a half, 2 hours. Just they try to break you apart. They try to find any little thing they can, just in case. But from the team's perspective, if you're investing $350 million in something, you want to make sure it works.
Yeah.
And when certain players get to certain stages of their career, there's obviously some physical things that teams are going to have to deal with, like some nagging injuries. Nobody's obviously perfect, especially when you're playing 162 games year in, year out. But whatever the Giants found, apparently in the consecutive days, it was a lower right leg injury that concerned the Giants, and especially concerned them because they were about to give him a 13-year contract. He would have been paid until he was 41 years old. So the Giants started to back out a little bit. Scott Boras, who is Carlos Correa's agent, one of the most popular agents who only goes for long-term deals. So you think about the Bryce Harpers, you think about the Mike Trouts. He opens up the recruitment, basically. The Mets swoop in at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now they're going to sign Correa. Giants deal falls apart. Mets are going to sign Correa. Mets are all excited because now they have a third baseman and only increased their spending this offseason, almost over $800 million or something ridiculous. Their payroll for next season, if the Correa deal goes through, will be $380 million, which is around $100 million over the fourth tier of the luxury tax, which is also known as the Steve Cohen tax, who's the Mets owner. But the Mets have raised concerns over Correa's injury, and they have yet to sign a deal. Their deal was proposed for 12 years, $315 million, and instead of playing shortstop, Correa would be playing third base, which he's 6'5". He's a very big, agile, athletic dude. So
he can make it work.
Yeah, he can make it work for sure. And that's another bat in your lineup. For the Mets fans, Merry Christmas to you. But with
that
this,
gives them maybe the best lineup in the league.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you spend that type of money, I hope you have a decent team.
You should get it. Yes.
But the Mets have yet to reach a deal with Correa because they are concerned about the same thing that the Giants were concerned about. Yesterday, Bleacher Report headlines said the chances of him signing with the Mets are still around 55%, which means Correa could be talking to more teams. Even though he's trying to finish the deal with the Mets, he could be talking to more teams, which is insane. That he could go to or reach an agreement with a third team. I know the Mets are still out, or not the Mets, the Twins are still out there. His original team that he's coming back from, they offered him 10 years at $285 million, and he turned that down or opted to go with the Giants. If you see $350 million, I would hope you take it. But the Mets still trying to get the deal done. If they don't get that done with Correa, I wonder how much that affects his value or the length of his contract. And being a Boris client, he doesn't settle for 5, 6 year deals that you're seeing some of these guys sign. He wants these mega deals, these guaranteed money, a lot,
Mm-hmm.
like basically a lot of years, a lot of money per year. So it's a very interesting situation. And I feel bad for Correa in the sense that this one little thing is getting in the way of all that. And it could cost him hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, and if I'm an MLB team and I'm seeing that multiple teams are turning him away because of his physical, I'm certainly not offering him a 10-year deal or a $200 million deal. I want to stay away from that. But maybe it's nothing. Maybe you're overreacting.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't take a risk on that much money and that long to be locked in on him.
Yeah. The other thing you have to think about is even though there is a concern with the injury, which team is going to be desperate enough to sign him to something? Because at some point, if the Mets don't do it, and they're about as desperate as any team in baseball, if the Mets don't do it, which team's going to step up and do it? You think about, I don't think the Dodgers would do such a thing because they don't, well, one, they don't do business with Boris clients because they don't like these huge mega deals. Two, Correa is, let's just say, a villain in Los Angeles since he played with the Houston Astros, and he was one of the key parts of the team that allegedly cheated or did cheat during the World Series in 2017. The Cubs have already signed Dansby Swanson, so a bunch of these markets that needed shortstops that are able to pay the money, because a lot of these teams, especially if you get in the NL Central, AL Central, these teams can't afford hundreds of millions of dollars of contract money. Reds certainly can't do that. Pittsburgh Pirates can't do that. So it's going to be one of these huge teams that are going to fork over some money. So we'll see what happens. But it's crazy the way the economics of baseball are working this offseason. It's a little bit worse or better, depending on which way you look at it. It's just a lot more exaggerated this offseason. So we'll see what's going on. But quickly, do you want to talk about the college football playoff?
New Year's weekend, we got college football playoff coming off on New Year's Eve, and then week after the national championship. Got two Big Ten teams represented in the playoffs. We got Ohio State going #1 Georgia, and #2 Michigan, and #3 TCU. I think that Georgia is the best team in the nation, and does Ohio State belong in the playoffs? Sure. Do I still think they're going to get steamrolled? Yes. TCU is undefeated. Well, no, they lost in the conference championship, but they were undefeated throughout the regular season. And playing Michigan, I got a feeling that it's going to be a close one, but Michigan has the best win of any team in college football this season winning at Ohio State. I think that Michigan wins by a hair.
Okay. For whatever reason, I think I agree Georgia's the best team in college football. Ohio State, their offense at times scares me, and I know their defense isn't as great, but also on the flip side, it's not like Georgia's running out a Heisman caliber quarterback. Stetson Bennett is solid. He's a good college quarterback, but I don't really see him doing crazy things in the NFL or beyond. He's not a guy that's going to run for 500 yards during a game outside of the pocket. But Georgia, at least on defense, that team is as disciplined as any in college football. They are scary on the defensive side of the ball. They get things done. They are efficient on offense. I don't want to take too much away from Stetson Bennett. They're not I think the point I'm trying to make is they're not as flashy as some of these teams. They're not going to make these ridiculously long plays all the time. They're just going to pick you apart. They're going to play smart football. They're going to take care of the ball. Ohio State kind of errs more on the side of let's take some home run shots. We'll see if it works. And if it doesn't, we're going to have to figure something out. I know at least being around a lot of Ohio State fans at Xavier, they're not the biggest fans of Ryan Day at times and his play calling. And sometimes they look lethargic. Sometimes they look like they're a chicken with their head cut off. They're just doing anything.
And we'll see what Stroud can do when there's pressure in his face all game long. He's so used to having this clean pocket all the time. Let's see what he can do with
that Georgia front seven is as good as any in college football. Just you heard UC talk about this last year when they played Alabama in the college football playoff. The front seven, it's just different with Alabama, Georgia. Those teams are different. We'll see what happens there. It would be, I think, entertaining to a degree to have Ohio State, Michigan in the national championship game, just for the sheer drama,
Yeah.
the passion, all that rivalry stuff. But not being into college football for most of my life, or at least watching it from afar. I would watch it from afar, but I didn't have like a team I was really diehard for. It would be entertaining to watch that game. And then on the other side, you have Michigan, TCU. I think Michigan comes away with the win against the Horned Frogs. They're playing just as good as any team in college football. I think people forget we haven't seen them in almost 3 weeks. There's a lot of layover time between the Big Ten championship game in this case and the college football playoff. But I think Michigan was getting hot at the right time. That's all you would want if you're a college football team, or if you're any team in sport. You want to get hot towards the end. You want to be playing your best football during the end stretch. So I think Michigan gets it done, and they face Georgia in the national championship game, which would be a rematch of the college football semifinal from last year, where Georgia absolutely dominated the Michigan Wolverines. But I think Michigan gets it done. I do think Georgia's back-to-back national champions until a team proves that they can beat them. I think that's a fair assessment on the Georgia Bulldogs, and we'll see what happens. But to not have an Alabama or a Clemson in this is kind of refreshing in a way.
I agree. So your championship pick is Georgia over Michigan?
I'm going to go Georgia over Michigan.
Tell you what, I'll take the upset in the championship. I'll go Michigan over Georgia.
Okay.
I think they're the more proven team. I think Georgia's a better team, but I think that Michigan's won the big game at the shoe this year. I think this is their year.
Can you imagine just how Ohio's going to be a rough place to be for the next year if that is the case.
Either way, if one of those Big Ten teams wins, it's going to be
It's going to be a sad environment, especially for a lot of the friends that Michael and I are friends with, Ohio State fans, and very passionate per se.
Yeah.
And there's
and they're not used to losing. They're not used to losing. I don't know how to handle losing.
Especially to, dare I say, Michigan.
Uh-huh.
God, that thing drives me crazy. Team up north. Like, just who cares? But it's Ohio State. They do things their own way. Anyways, I think the last thing we're going to talk about, instead of boring you guys with college basketball scores, who won, who's hot, whatever, we're going to highlight some of our favorite college basketball players so far this year, some surprise players who have come into their own. They've led their teams either in scoring or just led their teams to some wins. So, Michael, you want to start?
Yeah, I could start out west with 11 ranked UCLA right now. They 2 years ago they had that magical Final Four run. Last year they didn't have the same success in the tournament. But this is Tiger Campbell, Jaime Jaquez. This is a veteran team, and those are the teams I typically like watching. I know that a lot of people like watching the draft prospects, but I'm a fan of watching teams that have been there, done that, and have had success in the tournament and seeing how they cope with that throughout the next season. Because there's expectations now, and how you deal with expectations is a very important thing in college basketball. And I think that
For sure.
UCLA has been impressive so far this year. I know you're going to dive into Arizona. That's a 2-team race in the Pac-12 right now. And I'm someone who stays up late. Love watching Pac-12 football and basketball. So I got my eye on Jaquez and Campbell. I think Campbell's a great point guard. He knows how to lead a team. He knows how to run an offense. And Jaquez's job is just put the ball in the hoop.
Yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
think that Campbell sets him up pretty well, and Jaquez does it pretty well. And I think UCLA is a fun team to watch. And I'm looking forward to some UCLA-Arizona matchups.
Jaquez is a tried and true Mick Cronin player. Like, if you were to construct in a lab the perfect Mick Cronin player, Jaquez is probably as close as you're going to get. He's scrappy on defense, can score multiple ways. He's tough, physical. He's got a terrible mustache. But he gets it done, and he's a winner. And over the last few years, he has been more than enough for UCLA. They had the Final Four run a couple years ago. Just unbelievable player. the Bruins are in good hands, especially Tyler Campbell, as you mentioned as well. Talk about some hair. I think that is
Oh my
just as
goodness.
distracting as anything. But staying in the same spirit with the Pac-12, I have a guy who plays for the Arizona Wildcats. His name is Omar Ballo. If you have not seen this person play, I'd advise you to go on YouTube, search Omar Ballo, and watch this guy ball out. He is a 7-footer, 260 from Mali. He is actually a transfer from Gonzaga. He started in Gonzaga, and then when Tommy Lloyd was named head coach of Arizona last year, he came with Tommy Lloyd, who was originally at Gonzaga. Last year, played some key roles down the stretch, was kind of a bench player, role player, would come in, maybe get a couple points, couple rebounds, protect the rim. But this year, he has just absolutely exploded. As of now, he's averaging 17.8 points a game, almost 10 rebounds, and he's shooting 74.2% from the field, which is second best in the nation. If you get the ball down low to him and he's got position, good night. And the way Arizona plays, talk about a team that's fun to watch. The way they move the ball, the way Kirk Krisha creates on the offensive end, Ramey, some other offensive threats can really shoot it from the outside, but that also opens up the inside for players like Ballo. And then their other 7-footer, Tubelis, who is unbelievable. Tubelis is a left-handed player, which causes some disruptions down low, and then Ballo is right-handed. But to have a team in the Arizona Wildcats that has 4 players 7 feet or bigger, that is quite an advantage, especially if you can go into your bench and keep pulling out 7-footers. And the way Tommy Lloyd recruits, he wants to find the biggest players, not necessarily the greatest talents, but if he can have a lot of size on his team, that he can work with that. If you look at past Gonzaga teams, Drew Timme, Chet Holmgren, Rui Hachimura, Zach Collins, some incredible big men that are playing in the NBA right now that have come through Gonzaga. That's essentially what Tommy Lloyd's trying to do at Arizona. But Ballo, he put up 30 against Creighton in the Maui Invitational Final, was just a beast. But I don't want 7 feet 260 to fool you into he can't run. This dude can run the floor. He can stretch out the offense. He gets a lot of transition buckets, and he's a good finisher. He finishes through contact. I think the one negative would be his free throw shooting, for how many free throws he shoots. You would hope that if he can make a little bit higher percentage, he would be 20 points a game easy. But that is something that he's still developing, working on. But
what's he at right now?
Free throw percentage, he's around 50, 60%. So room to improve. But
Absolutely.
I mean, Shaq's a Hall of Famer. He couldn't shoot a free throw.
That's right.
I'm learning that on NBA 2K. That guy can't make a free throw. Keep losing to my brother because of Shaq.
Shaq missed a free throw.
He can't make a free throw. God, so annoying. But if Arizona's going to be a good team down the stretch, if they're going to make it run in the NCAA tournament, Omar Ballo is going to be at the center of that. If you have Tubelis playing really well, that's a plus. If you have both of them playing really well, like the best 1-2 punch in the country, you can't stop it. It's like in baseball. You have a dominant rotation that you just can't get hits off of. Look at the Houston Astros this year. Their offense, pretty solid. They have some players, Yordan Alvarez, everybody that can make some sparks fly. But that pitching rotation and bullpen was unbelievable. You can't stop it. So if you just banking it, like before you even start the game, you're probably punching in 50, 60 points from the post. Advantage that team, and then sprinkle in a couple threes. So he's one of my players to watch as the year progresses.
All right, let's take it east. Let's go to Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
Sule Boom.
Sule Boom. So Sule Boom, if you guys haven't heard me talk about it yet, which be shocked if you haven't, but Sule Boom is a UTEP transfer that is currently playing at Xavier University for Sean Miller. The only transfer that came in this year was Sule Boom. Actually, the only player Sean Miller is responsible in his first year back is Sule Boom, and talk about a guy to be
You got
proud
it
of.
right.
Yeah,
You got it right.
he got it right. Sule Boom is averaging 18 points a game, almost 5 assists a game, a couple steals a game, and does not turn the ball over. He's shooting almost 50% from 3 and 50% from the field. He has been nothing but amazing for Xavier. The last few years, their offense has dragged. It has not
Yep.
lived up to what it had with Chris Mack, with Trayvon Blewett, Makira, all those guys. Sule Boom has come in and just been a spark plug for Xavier.
You got a legit number one scorer now, and I think
Oh,
that's
for
something that
sure.
was lacking these last few years. I think it was just like it was a balanced attack, and sure that's good. Teams don't know what to expect, but you also don't have a
You
go-to
need your
guy
guy.
making games.
Mm-hmm.
And they got their guy. Sean Miller got his one guy, and that's been a great addition.
Yes, for sure. And Sule Boom is a threat from outside. He is very shifty with the ball. He's not the quickest dude in the world, but the way he handles the ball, he's really good around screens. He's really good at weaving in and out of traffic. He's a little bit smaller than some other point guards, so sometimes getting his shot off can be a little bit of an issue, especially with a bigger guard on him. But he's crafty in the way he gets open. He's always moving. It's just like watching Steph Curry play. He does not stop moving if he doesn't have the ball. He's going in and out of traffic, through screens, getting somebody else open. He's doing something to create a shot for himself.
Offensively, he reminds me a lot of Drew Holiday. Like you said,
Yeah,
he's not the quickest guy. He doesn't look like he's like moving that quickly, but
he's
still
efficient
with the ball. Exactly, he gets open.
And Xavier hasn't had a guy. They've been hoping the last couple of years that Colby Jones has stepped into that just assassin role. I'm going to score 20 points a game. You can't stop me, which I think Colby has every chance to do that. He's a talented enough player to do that, especially if he's shooting the ball well. But Sule, give him the ball at the end of the game. If he's not making the basket, he's going to get to the foul line. He's exceptional at getting fouled. There's a number of times he's either had an and 1-3 or gotten fouled on a 3-point shot. This year, he goes, that's a difference maker. And then defensively, again, not being the quickest dude in the world, he sometimes can have trouble with some really, really quick and efficient guards, but he's very smart at cutting the angles and gets garbage points off of steals. Let's say he scores a layup or makes a 3. There's a good chance he tries to slither in and knock away that inbounds pass, get another layup. It's the little things, and he's being a leader. And it's 5th year in college basketball. He's 24 years old, so glad he's figured it out. And I think he's just enjoying the bright lights of the Big East. I think he's only going to get better as conference play starts. He dropped 28 in the conference opener against Georgetown, just absolutely lit it up. He had 12 points in the Seton Hall game. Wasn't as much of the Sule Boom show as the previous few games have been, but he still did what he needed to do. So Sule Boom has been nothing but a godsend for the Xavier basketball program, and I think especially with the way the program was, the trajectory it was heading, some of the leadership issues, some of the scoring issues, Sule Boom's the perfect guy. And if you're any rational person, you would run through a wall for that guy, just the way he plays, the way he carries himself. So Sule Boom has been wonderful for Xavier. And then last guy I want to highlight, this is for Shafty. He asked me to include this guy while he was on his cruise. It is Primo Spears, one of the guards for Georgetown this year. He is 6'3", 185. He's a sophomore guard from Georgetown. This guy can score. Man, can he score. And as far as offense goes, if he is one-on-one with a guard, good night. Absolutely good night. He is very shifty, very quick, gets open really at a very high clip, creates a shot really well. His mid-range game, some people say the mid-range game is dead. This guy's bringing it back.
Alive and well.
It is alive and well. He had 22 points against Xavier. A lot of between the legs, crossover, step back. He's pulling up at the free throw line, just drains it
We'll
every
see if he
time.
can save Patrick Ewing's job.
Exactly. And Patrick Ewing, I don't know how that man has not been fired. That is beyond me. They've lost 22
He's a
straight.
legend, man. You can't fire the legend.
Well, yeah, but if you lose 22 straight conference games, 22 straight, they went 0-20 last year. 0-20. But as many dark spots as Georgetown's had, Primo Spears is one of the bright spots. He's averaging almost 18 points a game, 5 assists, almost 5 rebounds too. So being a little bit bigger of a guard, he can get in there and get some rebounds for you. Georgetown's guard play is probably the best thing that they do. And in recent years, they won the Big East tournament 2 years ago with their guard play, Mac McClung and all those. I forget the other guy's name. I know what he looks like, but their guard play was the big reason they made a run at the Big East tournament, and they killed Creighton in the finals. But he's had 6 20-point performances already this year. He was a big key in the Syracuse game. Primo Spears is one of the best guards in the Big East, and he's a matchup problem for every team. They just took UConn down, number 2 UConn down to the wire. Primo Spears had 19 points. Whenever they needed a bucket in the second half, especially as the game was winding down, he seemed to deliver. He would get the ball, isolate himself, go one-on-one with whoever, and then he'd hit the jump shot. Eventually, Georgetown fell in that game, but I don't think that's more about him. It's more about the way the team's playing. Yeah. But Primo Spears, one of the most electric guards in the country. Being a sophomore, either he's going to get some looks from NBA scouts because his game translates really well to the NBA, or when the end of the season rolls around, transfer portal opens up. If he doesn't want to lose 500 games a year at Georgetown, Primo Spears would be an unbelievable addition to a lot of programs in the country, an elite scorer, especially for high-level schools in the ACC, SEC. And now you can transfer within Big East schools. So for other Big East programs, maybe with a lot of FaceTime this year, they see Primo Spears, they're like, oh, let's go get that guy. So
I mean, you figure Nova, and they can throw a bunch of money at him, and I think they have an advantage over.
They probably could. They probably could. You think about a team like Creighton that likes their guards and likes moving the ball and offense. And then other stops in the country. Got a lot of ways you could do that, but Primo Spears, one of the best players in the Big East. Definitely watch out for him. And then Sule Boom, Omar Ballo, Jaime Jaquez, and Tiger Campbell. Take note of those guys. They're going to be really big down the stretch, hoping to lead their teams to first NCAA tournament berths and then some, hopefully, Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Fours. Don't wish too much, but yeah. Got anything else?
I was just going to say 2 things. One, I think the Big East has an advantage over – they should have an advantage over a lot of other schools when it comes to transfer portal, because at these Big East schools, when you're a basketball player, you're the star. There is no – a lot of West Coast schools, a lot of Southern schools do not care about their basketball teams.
Yeah.
They do not put money in their basketball teams. They do not make the best facilities for their basketball teams. And just around life on campus and in the city, they don't care about the basketball teams. If you go to a Big East school, you are immediately a star.
You are it.
Exactly. There's no football team. Basketball is life for these Big East schools. If I'm a kid looking at the transfer portal and I want to, not only improve my basketball, but everything around it, I think a Big East school is the place to go. And a player I'm tired of watching is Zach Edey turn over his left shoulder 20 times a game and throw it off the backboard. I can't believe the number 1. I'm tired of watching him. Wisconsin swept him last year. Hopefully we can do the same this next year. But I'm sick and tired of watching Zach Edey.
As infuriating as Zach Edey is and Purdue is to watch play basketball,
they're good.
They're good, and they're a good team. They don't have the Jaden Ivey that they did last year to complement Zach Edey. That's going to score a bunch of points. They're more playing everything through Edey, which even if he's not scoring, he's screening somebody to get open. He's getting the ball in the middle, causing a big distraction because he's 7'4", and
Yeah.
he doesn't even have to jump to dunk.
Same thing. It's the same thing every time he gets it.
He gets
his
it.
left shoulder. It
Yep.
throws it up.
Yep.
That's all he does.
I was watching just a few weeks ago, but the PK85 Purdue is playing Duke in the finals of one of the brackets, and he 2 possessions in a row. He acted like he was going over his left shoulder, spun around, and did a post move with his left hand and made both of them. And I was like, oh no, he figured it out. But I think at least the way that team looked, they're a lot more of a collective group that's going to beat you more than Jaden Ivey's going to take over the game. Edey's going to get involved. I think if they're going to win, if they're going to continue to play at the level that they have, they're going to have to do it as a team more so than other years where they've had a Carson Edwards, they've had a Jaden Ivey, they've had somebody that can just completely take over games. I don't think they have that guy yet, but I mean, if you're that good as a team, just keep doing what you're doing until it falls apart. Yeah. Well, anything else? Did we miss anything?
No, sir.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us for episode number 15 of the Quick Question Podcast. This will be out soon, and stay tuned for next week. We'll have some sort of show probably similar to this. I think Matt should be back from vacation, so it'll probably be the 2 of us. Michael might join us as well. We will figure that out, but thank you guys for joining us. My name is Gabe Ryan.
Michael Daley.
And we will see you next week. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much for coming out this evening. Thank you. Get fucked too kind. Hold your